The movie begins on Halloween night. A man opens his front door to kids collecting candy. He wears a Dracula costume. He approaches his son, Connor, who is studying for the MCAT test. He says the test will take a tiresome 6 hours to complete. His father, Dylan, tells him to take a break because life goes faster than Connor thinks. Once the doorbell rings, Dylan goes to give out more candy. In a short time, Connor tells him it's getting cold inside, so he wants him to shut the door. But his dad is not answering him. This prompts Connor to look for him, and we get the impression something bad happened. However, Dylan is okay. He pops up to scare his son on Halloween. 1 minute cannot pass for the doorbell to ring after they return to the table. Connor has the same complaint about the door being opened during his father's time of being away. He yells he isn't going to fall for the same trick again. Heading for the door, Connor does not see his dad this time. What he sees is blood on the ground outside. Further out there, he sees his dad on his knees, and behind him stands someone in a skeleton mask. Whoever he is, he hacks at Dylan with an axe. Connor rushes to help but gets pushed down. At this moment, his mother exits the house to shoot the mystery man. While she speaks to Connor, the culprit escapes. During the opening credits, we learn the culprit is called Skeleton. One of his victims survived a long time ago. She is Moira Morris, and her story turned into a movie in 1992. 30 years later, Skeleton escaped from prison. Then we see Connor sitting in a hospital with a stitched face. His brother, Mike, approaches him to ask what happened. A lady interrupts them, saying she is Shelley, the grief counselor. She tells Mike that his father lost his life. It's no surprise he does not take this awful news lightly. He rudely asks Connor where he was when this happened. They get into a fight that has to be broken up, and Mike yells he would have saved their dad. Moving along, a policeman enters the room of Moira, who happens to be the lady who shot Skeleton. The officer says he is Detective Cyphers. His partner is Lynn Fink. Moira tells him she has already spoken to a woman with glasses. Cyphers wants her to help him find the man who took her husband's life. She claims to know who Skeleton is. She gives his name, Lee Morris, and says he is her cousin. She worries a lot about the safety of her sons that she yells to see them. Personnel have to arrive to comfort her. Moira wants to know if her bullet made Skeleton perish, yet she doesn't get her answer. The next scene has a reporter at the house where Skeleton was shot. She reports that the search for the culprit is in progress. We see a woman sitting in a car, observing this report. Afterward, she arrives at a store to buy several items. Through the cashier, we learn she is Sam. He has an obvious liking toward her, saying he can give her company in her big house. Sam says she would rather drink Drano than have him over. Somewhere in the woods, we see Skeleton walking with the bullet wound Moira gifted him. Sam draws near and says she knew she would find him there. She tells him she is his sister like he does not know. Once Sam injects him, she says he can trust only her. 1 year later, Moira is outside her house, seeing a car parked in the distance. She yells to the person inside it to leave. Whoever is in there, they obey Moira's command. Receiving a call from Cyphers, she informs him of what just happened. She says she knows the lady inside the car, and it's probably the 4th time she was parked there. Moira wants the detective to run the lady's license plate. Inside her house, she sees the movie about Skeleton playing on TV. Soon one of her sons calls out to her, making her grab a baseball bat before going upstairs. She enters Connor's room, where she sees he is lying in bed. He isn't in any sort of trouble. She tells him it has been a year since his father passed away. Connor does not want to get out of bed due to a foul mood. She asks if he is ready to speak to a doctor, but he doesn't want to get out of his state. His mother worries because he has to find something to live for. He had that something, he replies. Downstairs, Mike asks his mom if everything is okay, and she gives a negative to that. He recommends for her to leave Connor alone. He thinks they should have a coffee elsewhere. When they are out there, Moira seems lost in thought. Mike asks what he has to do to get her out of this mood. Soon a young lady comes to them, and her presence brings Moira to life. She is Lisa, who Moira socializes with. Mike has to go to work, so he leaves them to be together. Moira continues being happy around Lisa. From their interaction, we can infer they are friends who have not seen each other for a decent amount of time. As they walk, Lisa inquires about Mike. His mom says he needs Lisa, a statement the latter disagrees with. Moira says they were made for each other. She pleads to Lisa not to give up on him, and it would be a mistake if she did. She adds Mike feels responsible for his brother and her. She thinks she failed in some way as a mother, which prompts Lisa to tell her to stop. She calls Moira a great mom. Once they pass several Skeleton movie posters on a wall, Lisa wonders how can something like this be allowed, given that people know Moira lives there. But Moira says it's okay, for she still gets royalty checks thanks to the movie. Switching to Sam, she feeds her maniac brother while he's restrained on a bed. She tells him he is special. We see the skull mask in a cage. Sam tells him they don't need to discuss why he did what he did. She asks if he knows Moira is living at a certain address with her sons. At Moira's house, Mike tells his mom he wants to move out, and she thinks it's the right decision. She also wants him to marry Lisa. Following this, we see Sam sitting parked in her car. She gets approached by Detective Fink, whom she lies to about being terrible with directions. He sternly tells her this is a private residence. Not taking any of her talk, Fink tells her to leave. At the police station, he walks with Cyphers and says Sam is a nobody. He reads from her profile what her age is, where she lives, and that her job is being a nurse. She took care of her sick mother, who passed away 7 years ago. Furthermore, she legally changed her name. Cyphers wants to know why she was parked near Moira's house. In the next scene, Moira lies on a couch in her psychiatrist's office. He asks her where she is now. With closed eyes, she answers she is in the woods between her father's house and her aunt's. We observe a younger Moira walking, while her current self describes to the doctor that her entire body hurts. She is with her cousin, Lee, and his younger sister. She told him not to bring the girl, so Moira says she told Sam to look at flowers because she should not witness how Lee was going to butcher a bird with his axe. The doctor instructs his patient to tell Lee to stop what he is doing. He says Moira could not have protected Sam in the past, yet she could now. Moira says she can't stop him and struggles on the psychiatrist's couch. In the flashback, she whispers to Lee that he should hurt someone for her. Later, we see Lee sitting in a room, restrained by chains. When Sam enters the room to speak to him, he runs at her. Lucky for Sam, the chains hold him back. She injects him again, making him fall. She tells her sleeping brother she loves him. At Moira's house, Connor gets upset with his mom due to finding out she told Mike to move out. They get into an argument, and she says he doesn't do anything except behave like an angry zombie. He replies he is sick of her, adding the hurtful statement that she got his dad assassinated. Moira gives him a hard slap for such words. She says if she could trade places with him, she would. Presenting a set of letters to her, Connor calls her a liar. She asks where he got them from, but he leaves without answering. Our attention is brought to the letters, showing us they were being sent by Moira to Lee in prison. Seeing Mike sitting in his car, she heads over to him. He says he got to the leasing office and just sat in his car. Moira says he needs to talk to someone, which he agrees with. Since he says he misses his father, she tells him awful things happen that they can't control. She also says his dad chose to love her despite how she is. Moira is grateful her children grew out of this love. Mike thanks his mom for her helpful words. He says he loves her, and she returns the statement. Afterward, Detective Fink arrives at Sam's house to knock on its door. He says he would like to ask her some questions. No one comes to the door, so he gets inside the house through the back. Once he is inside, he does the lawful thing by announcing who he is. Fink cautiously walks with his gun, asking if anyone is there. Soon he enters the room where Lee lies. Seeing him restrained, Fink uses a radio to say he needs a bus and a medic. Alas, he commits an error in undoing Lee's restraints before any help arrives. Not very good detective work. While he uses his radio again, we see Lee slowly sitting up behind him. He starts to fight the intruder in his sister's house and seems to take Fink's life. The next scene has Lisa ice skating alone. Mike arrives to watch her do it. She asks him what he's doing there, only to hear him say he misses her. She tells him she did everything she could to make it work between them. Mike apologizes for how he behaved. He says he shut down, touching her hand. He says he hopes things are not over between them. But Lisa does not know what to say. She doesn't want to go through this a second time. He promises she won't have to, and they kiss. At night, they are in bed together. In the meantime, our attention falls on Connor having a nightmare of skeleton. His mom is there in addition to his brother. They both have bloody necks. Moira says she loves Connor, whilst Mike says he is sorry. The instant Connor's father gets struck by skeleton, Connor wakes up in worry. Soon Sam returns home from work. She talks to her brother without seeing him. Hearing a noise in his room, she carefully starts to walk there. Upon removing a cover from the bed, she sees Fink instead of Lee. It causes her to panic over what Lee has done. He approaches her wearing his skeleton mask, and she tells him not to make her shoot him. She tries to inject him, yet he grabs her hand prior to picking her up by the neck to throw her. When he leaves the house, Sam tells her mother she is okay. Of course, her mother isn't around, therefore Sam behaves slightly crazily by talking like this. Lee walks into the store his sister occupied earlier. The cashier asks him if he can help Lee with anything, but Lee simply keeps moving without answering. Due to this, the man follows him, and tells him to leave his store. He commits the mistake of putting his hands on Skeleton. Consequently, the man gets thrown on the floor. Lee takes a pair of pants and an axe before he leaves. At her home, Moira watches the news, learning about the demise of the cashier. She also learns Sam found the corpse and tried to administer first to the man. This prompts Moira to enter the police station, where she demands to see Cyphers. Once the detective shows himself, Moira tells him the nurse she saw on television is the one who stalked her 4 times. Cyphers tells Moira her cousin is deceased. Opposing him, she says Lee's corpse was never found, and she knows the nurse is somehow connected to all this. Since Cyphers tells her to let it go, she leaves the station. He heads over to her outside to tell the lady her problem is that she thinks he doesn't care about her or her family. He claims this is false. He is still trying to understand what happened. He thinks she deserves a better life with her sons. However, Moira replies it does not matter where they go. Until they take the maniac's life, they will be prey. She tells Cyphers to find the nurse. Afterward, she is at the psychiatrist's office. In the distant past, Moira again tells Lee to hurt someone for her. Going back there is very hard for Moira because she struggles on the couch. She whispers to Lee that only he can protect her from her father. Soon we see Lee holding a severed head. Moira yells for him to stop, but he says he did it for her. Later, Mike awakens from noise in the house. He cautiously goes downstairs, equipped with a golf club for a weapon. He sees a door open and peeks outside, where he discovers nothing unusual. It doesn't take long for someone wearing a skeleton mask to scare him down. Another one is there with a green mask. They enjoy scaring Mike on the floor prior to removing their masks. Retaliating, Mike threatens the teenagers harshly for what they did. In the next scene, an officer pulls someone over who we don't see. He gives the officer a detective's ID, and the latter behaves more respectfully. He tells the unseen man to wait while he checks the ID. As he is inspecting it, Skeleton appears to hack him with his axe. A woman drives up at this unlucky minute, prompting Skeleton to take her life too. He rewards himself for his double assassination by driving away in her car. At home, Moira continues to learn more about what is going on from the news. This time, she learns Detective Fink was discovered lifeless by 2 hikers. Following this, Mike walks into the room Connor is in, hearing his brother say that their mom hit him. Mike replies she should have done more and calls Connor a loser. To get back at him, Connor asks how Lisa is doing. He asks how many different guys she must have been with during her separation from Mike. Mike calls his brother a miserable human who needs help. He also reminds him how privileged he is. Yet Connor says that life is over. Mike did not see what Skeleton did to their father, he adds, disagreeing with him. Mike says he identified their dad's corpse in the morgue. He says they all suffered and tells Connor to grow up. Such words activate a switch in Connor's mind, which results in him initiating a fight. When Mike wins, Connor says their mother is the one at fault because she wrote to Skeleton. He stresses that she intentionally left their address on many letters to an assassin in prison. He gives Mike a letter to prove it. Then we see the teenagers who scared Mike with their masks. Now they are engaged in creating graffiti that gets them yelled at by a man. Thus, they ride off on their bicycles. At night, they locate the car Skeleton stole. The boy looks inside to see the culprit's axe. He tells his friend, Nikki, to look at it, but she is scared and rides away. Left alone, he hears a sound. Skeleton surprises him from behind. He grabs the boy who wears a mask like his to take his life. Afterward, Moira sits on her porch with a shotgun. Connor joins his mother, asking her why she wrote those letters. She responds she needed it to be over. She does not expect her son to understand. At the police station, Cyphers comes to his coworker to give him several items to look through. He appreciates it being done for his friend, Fink, who recently perished. Moving along, Cyphers arrives at Sam's house alone. Entering it, he announces his presence. Soon he gets a call from his associate, Cindy. She informs him Sam is not at the hospital. She did not check in for her shift today or yesterday. Cyphers says he is about to find out if she's at home, so he keeps searching the house with his gun ready until he gets distracted by something on the floor. With his guard down, he suddenly gets shot by Sam. She says she was lost along with her brother. Cyphers throws himself at her, yet she manages to bring the injured detective down. She finishes it by holding a pillow over his head and shooting him. Sam says she made a promise to her mom that when her mom passed away, Sam would find meaning in her life in addition to Lee's. The troubled lady calls out to her deceased mother, desiring to know what she should do. She gets out of the house to sit inside Cypher's car. At Moira's home, Moira occupies the kitchen with Connor. She tells him the first time she ever truly smiled was with his dad. Holding Connor's hand, she tells him to forgive her. He starts to cry and they hug before they both say they love each other. The next scene has Connor drawing near Mike. He asks him if he thinks someone could go through something so bad that they never recover from it. Mike replies Connor needs to speak to a specialist. However, Connor says he was talking about their mom. He adds they don't know what she went through in her childhood. It concerns him how she talks about her mother. She talks about her morbidly and cryptically. Mike says their dad knew all about it, but he still loved her. Changing to a much lighter topic, Mike wants Connor to go with him to the Halloween party tonight. Although his brother has a hard time accepting it, he gives in. Later, Skeleton arrives at Moira's house. A woman behind him threatens to call the police if he doesn't go away. Such words prompt him to walk toward her, and we don't see what he does to the woman. Following this, Sam enters Moira's house, where she sees her brother standing with his back toward her. She pleads for him not to do this. This family does not deserve this, she says. Sam claims to know the pain Lee is in. Her emotions take over, with her saying she knows he is a good person, and she misses him. Taking his hand, she says they have to go. As she slowly walks Lee toward the front door, she says whatever Moira did to him, he was just a child. She tells him he has taken this too far. Once they are close to the entrance, Lee suddenly grabs her arm, causing her to punch him. He responds by grabbing her completely away from the door. The next thing we see is him carrying her outside in an unconscious state. During the Halloween party, our attention falls on Mike, Connor, Moira, and Lisa ice skating together in costumes. Connor wears the Dracula cape like his father did. While they are having fun, they have no idea who was or perhaps is inside their house. Later, a detective named Trustin enters Sam's house, where he finds Cyphers lying with a pillow over his head. Surprisingly, the bullet Sam gave him did not take his life. Cyphers tells Trustin to drive him to Moira's house. When the family returns home, Moira stands near the front door and says something feels wrong. She says she did not leave the garage light on. Connor thinks she is overreacting, but goes to check on the garage regardless. In the meantime, Moira goes to check on something downstairs. Lisa tells Mike to go check on her. Thus, he goes there, leaving his girlfriend alone. In the garage, Connor tries to turn off the flickering light. At this moment, the door shuts behind him, alerting the man. His attempts to open it fail. Soon he finds something bloody on the floor and cannot believe what it is. He calls the police, asking to talk to Cyphers. He is scared Lee will butcher his family. Shifting to Lisa, she finds two people standing in the dark. She shines her phone light on them to see it is Skeleton standing with his sister, who he has disfigured greatly. The family hears Lisa's scream. This makes Moira and Mike rush to her. Luckily, she is alive. Since she tells them Skeleton is present, Moira demands that Lisa leave the house instantly. Yet she doesn't have time to do this because Skeleton appears to knock Moira down. He has to fight all three of them, which he still manages to do quite well. It doesn't take long for Connor to free himself from the garage and join his family in the ultimate fight. It takes all four of them to push Skeleton out the window along with themselves. They lie on the ground outside the house, too injured from everything. Skeleton is easily the toughest, so he stands while the rest don't. Sadly, he brings his axe down on Lisa, seemingly taking the poor lady's life. He walks away without doing the same to any of the others. As he walks the street, Trustin and Cyphers see him from their car. Exiting the vehicle, they point their guns at him, ordering the maniac to drop his axe. He decides to walk away, prompting the detectives to open fire on him. Once Mike wakes up, he calls out to Lisa. We see the man who took her life running away until the bullets hit him. Unfortunately, he gets up to resume running. The final moment has Moira screaming madly on the ground beside her sons. It seems like her cousin got away.